Continuing from the previous episode 1710. How is it possible? Looking at the sky that appeared out of thin air, a look of disbelief flashed in Bai Ruoqing's beautiful eyes. The dark green fog poison barrier is the source of Bai Ruoqing's painstaking practice for hundreds of years. He used the power of the source to obliterate Xiaoyan, but also to eliminate some unnecessary troubles. But now the dark green fog poison barrier is covered by a completely clear and transparent watercolor sky curtain, completely blocked. At this time, Xiaoyan and the two were wrapped, and the space of hundreds of meters around the body was filled with a water-liquid sky with terrifying power. Countless pure and transparent water sources formed a huge spiritual screen that could isolate the erosion of all things, like a sky screen. Completely protect the two of them, and even the dark green poisonous fog and poisonous mist are retreating. What a terrifying defense. The side was worried about Xiaoyan's quiet ears, but it was difficult to speak. I am afraid that this level of defense cannot be defeated by 8-star fighting immortals. The numerous treasures, and even such tyrannical defenses, really surprised you, Ear. This is the breath of the dragon race? How can you, a human being, have the power of a dragon? You little guy, it's getting more and more interesting. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Ruoqing's figure disappeared and was drowned in the dark green poisonous mist. The barrier is like a poisonous snake that contains highly poisonous poison. Once it is touched in the slightest, I am afraid that the two of them will fall here completely. In the final analysis, with the strength of the 6-star fighting immortal early stage, Xiaoyan wanted to deal with a 7-star fighting immortal level mourner too reluctantly. This guy is too strong, it seems that he can only retreat temporarily. Seeing this scene, Xiaoyan was also unable to shake his head. As Bai Ruoqing merged into the poison barrier, those dark green mists seemed to have a look at life. They did not continuously impact on the water-liquid sky, but stood quietly aside, as if waiting for something. This guy is too cunning. If things go on like this, it's probably us who will fall. Seeing this, Xiaoyan couldn't help but feel no joy. Instead, a heavy feeling appeared in his heart. In the pattern of dominance given to Xiaoyan by the third transformation of the dragon god, although there is an incomparably tyrannical defensive fighting skill, Xiaoyan knows that although this water-based defensive fighting skill is tyrannical, with the strength of Xiaoyan today, it can support it didn't take long, and Xiaoyan knew the strength of the mourners. Once there was no protection from the sky, let alone Bai Ruoqing's fighting strength, just those dark green poisonous barriers could easily kill both of them. Time frowned. Two little guys, just wait here for a month. Why do you have to do so much extra resistance? Bai Ruoqing, who was hidden in the fog of the poison barrier, kept speaking, and seemed not to be in a hurry. Humans have entered, and there are also daring people like Xiaoyan. Bai Ruoqing naturally wants to chat more, so he teases them along the way. Otherwise, as the mourner of this fellow, once the power in his body exploded completely, Xiaoyan would be more fortunate than fortune. Follow me for a while, we only have one chance. After a little deep voice, Xiaoyan also had a solution in his heart. Space Shuttle Handprint. This is Xiaoyan's last resort so far. After all, at the moment when the sky is broken, if Bai Ruoqing can hesitate for a while, then the two of them can escape from here, otherwise they can only use all their strength here. Hey! With a loud voice, the sky curtain composed of surging water actually slowly subsided, and the area and defense power were greatly weakened, which was obviously due to the lack of vindictiveness. Finally, are you starting to get discouraged? Looking at the gradually weakening sky, Bai Ruoqing's laughter filled the air. Not good. Seeing this, Xiaoyan hurriedly increased the delivery of dou qi in his hands, but at this time Xiaoyan was already sweating profusely, and the sky was still receding at a speed visible to the naked eye. The power of the poison barrier, bewitching. Seeing that the sky was getting weaker and weaker, Bai Ruoqing snorted without any hesitation, and the dark green poison barrier instantly turned into a ferocious dragon, roaring away at Xiaoyan. Watching it looks like he wants to obliterate Xiaoyan here. The source of the soul. Looking at this scene, before Xiaoyan was ready, the quiet ear screamed, and the colorless and transparent soul power filled out, actually temporarily blocking the progress of the poison barrier dragon. You. Looking at Yu'er's actions in front of him, Xiaoyan felt a little astonished. The source of the soul, this will have an impact on one's own origin. If the source of the soul is used, I am afraid that the power of the soul will not be able to improve in the future. Space Shuttle handprints. The sky curtain disappeared instantly, a terrifying poison barrier filled the void, and the pressure on Xiaoyan and Yu greatly increased, but Xiaoyan knew the current situation, gritted his teeth, and the handprints changed rapidly. Boom! With a sound, the space shook, and a door to the void appeared directly in front of the two of them. You go first. Quick! The door to the void just appeared, and Xiaoyan hurriedly spoke to Yu. Yu has used too many methods here. Xiaoyan is a big man. Nothing will break her. Peefed. With a sound, Yu pierced directly into the gate of the void. She's gone. Then you can stay with me. Bai Ruochen didn't expect that Xiaoyan was still proficient in the law of space. Looking at the disappearing Yu, he couldn't help saying, "It's not good. It's too late." Seeing Bai Ruochen suddenly appearing on the top of the dark green poisonous dragon outside, attacking him in the form of a thunderbolt, Xiaoyan's heart was filled with shock. 4 fingers in the sky. 3 punches of good fortune. Quote. The seal of the heavenly king. Bang bang bang. A series of fighting skills came out immediately. Xiaoyan couldn't care about anything else, and his speed skyrocketed and flew towards the gate of the void. No matter it was too late, he could not give up the last chance. Even if the chance is slim. Chi-Chi's novels are first published on the whole network. Die, little guy. You have a good human body. After you die, you will turn into a ghost, so that you can stay with me forever. The poison barrier dragon easily swayed its tail, and all Xiaoyan's attacks turned into nothingness, and immediately faced Xiaoyan and go. Damn it, it's just a little bit. The gate of the void was close to his eyes, but Xiaoyan knew that it was too late. On the palm of his hand, 3 color flames emerged, and immediately touched his forehead slightly, with an indescribable terrifying wave. Like a giant dragon, slowly waking up. Ho ho ho! The next moment, just as Xiaoyan was about to cast his clan mark and Bai Ruochen was about to attack Xiaoyan, a green figure suddenly emerged from the gate of the void, and immediately transformed into a huge wolf shape. The energy phantom roared away at Bai Ruochen. Who is it? Bai Ruochen thought that the victory was in his hands, but where did he think of such a strange scene? He was instantly dispelled by the wolf-shaped energy phantom, and the poisonous dragon disappeared without a trace. Peefed! Xiaoyan rushed into the gate of the void in an instant, and silence was restored here. Such a tyrannical demonic energy, I am afraid it is the tyrannical 8-star fighting immortal, but how could the overlord of the demon world appear in our Lihan territory? Bai Ruochen could only helplessly shake her head. At this moment, the red sign on the southernmost side was almost safe, but still no place for the retreat of Lord Li Sol was found. It is probably less than a month away from the successful retreat of Lord Li Sol. The fastest update of Chi-Chi novel. Continuing from the previous episode 1711. Zoo. For a while, the void squirmed, and the figures of Xiaoyan and Yu emerged one after another. Xiaoyan, are you all right? The two of them just fell out of the gate of the void, and immediately Yu looked at Xiaoyan's pale face and couldn't help but ask with concern. Cough cough. I'm fine. Xiaoyan is fine, it's just that Bai Ruochen's extremely terrifying poisonous power has some side effects. After all, Bai Ruochen's identity as a mourner is more serious, difficult to poison body, but also a lot more tyrannical. If it wasn't for a mysterious powerhouse who came to help just now, I'm afraid that the situation of the two of us would have been in jeopardy. Xiaoyan recalled with trembling. By the way, where are we now? After some explanations, Xiaoyan asked hurriedly. We are here, and there are 5 housing spaces from the center. Yu took out the parchment map and said, 5 spaces. It's been too long. If it continues like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up with the breakthrough time of the Master of Li Sol. Xiaoyan heard the words, frowned, and couldn't help but be vigilant in his heart. There are still 5 places to go from the red sign in the center, and it is still near number 15 from the far north. For such a complicated route, 1 month is simply not enough. Don't worry, let's go. With a murmur, the two of them didn't hesitate, swallowed some medicinal pills like a wolf, and then continued on their way. Oh, it's really bad luck. I thought that the guardians in the West Temple were very powerful, but now it seems that they only have a false name. There is no one who can fight. At this time, outside the red sign in the northernmost, a man who looked very ordinary dressed, threw a figure back in his hand, and suddenly complained. Behind him, a total of 15 people, all of them fell into a coma. Among these 15 people, the strength is not poor, and even some 7-star fighting immortals are complete, but even so, they are all defeated at this time. Black Dragon Wolf. However, there will be a mourner in the southernmost part. This is really something I didn't expect. The power of mourners, I am afraid that I can only be divided into 5 or 5 now, so don't provoke it. Hey Sha Long, Yu said stunnedly. It was obvious that the one who had just helped Xiaoyan escape was the Heisha Dragon Wolf, but the brief confrontation made him understand that the power of the mourner would only be stronger than the rumors, and the Heisha Long the wolf did not immediately express his intention to Xiaoyan. On the one hand, he wanted to see Xiaoyan's power, and on the other hand, he had doubts about the Devil of Light. He always felt that there was something wrong with the Devil of Light. However, there are still 2 places that I haven't explored yet. These 2 places are extremely repelling places for me. Where exactly the Lord of the Soul will be, I don't know. The voice just fell, and the Fiend Dragon Wolf carefully hid the 15 people. Zaidu confirmed that he would not wake up for a short time, and immediately followed Xiaoyan and the 2. I have to say that these 15 people are also suffering. They are the strong guards of the 3 locations, and they can be regarded as the elders of the West Temple. The power-famous overlord of the demon world, the Black Dragon Wolf, is naturally only beaten, the other side. Palace Master, the powerhouses of the Ghost Kingdom have sneaked into our temple, and they seem to have sensed the Master's plan. At the core of the West Temple, inside the Fang Hao Temple. Fang Hao's brows closed slightly at this time, standing on his throne, and standing in front of him was clearly the leader of Li Soul Guard, Hua Xiao. People from the Kingdom of Ghosts? Soul Palace? Fang Hao suddenly opened his eyes and asked suspiciously when he heard the words. Although the Ghost Kingdom is extremely low-key, some of their secrets are still seen by other powerhouses in the Ghost world. How many are they here? Fang Hao asked. The Great Soul of the Soul Hall respects the soul and destroys the sky, and the rest are some small shrimps that are not to be feared. Hua Xiao said, since a 7-star fighting immortal is sent to destroy the plan of the Master of Li Soul, it seems that these guys should have come prepared. Fang Hao wondered, how about the supplies? Fang Hao asked after a while. Everything the Master needs is ready. I'm afraid it will take another month to know the result, so the next time is when the temple is the most nervous. Hua Xiao said, his voice full of seriousness. Our West Temple is different from the other 3 halls. We have an outer and inner hall. The outer hall is heavily guarded, and the inner hall is where some 6-star fighting immortals and even 7-star fighting immortals live. It is obviously a residence, but it is actually a guardian of the temple. However, this also makes the guards in the inner hall of our temple much more tyrannical than the outer hall. So next, we will strictly search the outer hall and cannot let any suspicious person go. Fang Hao said after some contemplation. Palace Master, although there are many strong people in the inner palace, but just in case. Hua Xiao said with concern. No need, the protection of the inner hall will only be stricter than you think, so let's do it and search the outer hall together. Once you find any suspicious people, shoot them. A majestic voice filled the air. Hey! Hua Xiao could only do as he heard the words, but he didn't know that it was this guidance that led to quite serious consequences. However, Soul Mietian is extremely cunning. With the cover of many soul disciples, he turned towards the inner hall of the temple. Why, there's no one. As for Xiaoyan and Yu, they still quickly headed towards the center. The center is the only way to get to the northernmost point, so the 2 of them had no choice but to be the 2 when people step into the first housing space, they are in trouble. This is a rather hot space, like a magma-like area, the whole body is hot, but there is no breath or even a human figure here. What's going on? Yu couldn't help but asked. There is an exit there, go and take a look. Xiaoyan said solemnly. Obviously this is the first time Xiaoyan has encountered this situation. Squeak. With a sound, the 2 easily walked past the first light and came to the second stone gate. The guy who lived in that space just now, shouldn't he fall asleep? Yu took a long time to react. It's not like. Xiaoyan shook his head, and seemed to have some clues when he combined with the guy who had just rescued him from the poison barrier. Come in. Without any hesitation, in order to confirm some of Xiaoyan's thoughts, Xiaoyan gently touched the second stone gate with his palm and rushed into it. The second space, this is a rather quiet bookstore. In the bookstore, sandalwood exudes bursts of fragrance, it seems that the pen and ink have just been opened, but at this time it is also empty. Chi-Chi's novels are first published on the whole network, still no one? At this time, Xiao Yan's speculations seem to have been confirmed a lot, and he muttered, "Have you found anything?" At this moment, Yu didn't say anything and followed Xiao Yan closely. "Go to the third space." After walking around, he continued toward the third space. The third space, this is a sea area. The sea area is extremely huge, making Xiao Yan intimidated and dangerous, but without exception, there are no guardians here. At this time, Xiao Yan couldn't help but laugh. The fastest update of Chi-Chi novel. Although he didn't know what purpose the mysterious powerhouse had been secretly helping him for, Xiao Yan always felt that he didn't seem to be malicious and seemed to be begging for him. However, judging from the guardians who disappeared for no reason in these spaces, the powerhouse who secretly helped Xiao Yan was to a large extent the mysterious person who had been following him before, and his strength was probably at the lowest level of 8-star fighting immortals. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. Continuing from the previous episode 1712. Just when Xiao Yan and the two were puzzled, and they kept confirming their guesses in the 5 spaces, in the center of the inner hall of the temple, Xiao Yan and the two went to the only way to go to the northernmost sign, the red area in the center. This is a dark void. There is nothing strange in the void, but there are 2 cliffs. The cliffs are thousands of feet in size, and the cliffs are extremely steep and surrounded by countless mysterious black lines. Above these black lines, it contains a trace of gray thunder power that is difficult to detect with the naked eye, and it is so strong that it cannot even be traversed with any skill. And if you want to cross here, you have to walk over the only bridge at the top of the 2 cliffs, but it is strange that there is no decoration on this bridge, just an ordinary stone bridge. Chi-Chi's novels are first published on the whole network underneath the 2 cliffs and stone bridges of China. Unicom is the abyss. With the strange power here, some flying abilities and space power seem to be malfunctioning, so it becomes the strangest place in the temple. The 2 cliffs seem to be projected from opposite sides. They are exactly the same. The area on the top of the cliff is quite broad, with an area of several thousand meters. On the top of the cliff, there is a circular training platform. Other than that, there is nothing else. At this time, in the center of the training platform, a lonely figure slowly opened its beautiful eyes, and a trace of gray thunder in the pupil outlined a very obscure ancient gray pattern, setting it off like a god. Hoo! In some days, I should be able to completely reincarnate. When the senior lay lord successfully wakes up, the power in me will also be returned to the teacher. At that time, I can be an ordinary person. Qian Ying got up slightly, stretched her waist lazily, and showed her slender curves vividly, and even at the end, a slight blush appeared on her delicate face. Taking a closer look, this girl is Du Qifei. However, the power of reincarnation is really mysterious. It is no wonder that a strong person as strong as a teacher has paid a very heavy price to fight against the evil race from outside the territory. After a while, Duo Qifei said to himself. Obviously during these times, she has noticed a lot of things from reincarnation, and the teacher in her mouth is naturally derived from her own reincarnation, Lei Master. After coming to Li Sol territory, since I met Master Li Sol, through the resources and means of Master Li Sol, Duo Qifei has been able to understand the reincarnation in advance and touch the power of reincarnation. Today's Du Qifei, on the surface, it seems that she is the same as a lady, but her strength has surpassed the 8 stars, touching reincarnation. Maybe she hasn't really set foot in the first realm of reincarnation, but now she can be said to be the most powerful person in Li Sol domain. However, this is obviously also the backhand prepared by Lord Li for the evolutionary breakthrough of devouring the holy flame, because he knows that once he fails to break through, Li Sol territory will face both the demon of light and soul-devouring territory attacking at the same time. At that time, because of this, the Li Hanyu Club will no longer exist, so it is a surefire way to let Duo Qifei realize it in advance. And there is one point, the Lord of Li Sol deceived Du Qifei. There are many kinds of samsara, but Du Qifei is the purest samsara and the most tyrannical. Because once she is completely reincarnated, not only Duo Qifei will gain reincarnation level power, but even the Thunderlord who was trapped in reincarnation because of reserved power will also wake up. At that time, there are 2 reincarnation powerhouses. The fastest update of Chi-Chi novel. This kind of reincarnation is the purest and most perfect, because on the way to comprehend reincarnation, it is similar to Btth2 learning to integrate the power of the Thunderlord and inherit her mantle. Once successful, the two reincarnation experts will respond. Pregnant. However, this approach also has its drawbacks. Once the identity of the reincarnator is discovered and is willingly obliterated by some conscientious people, then the super strong person who falls into the reincarnation will be as weak as a blank sheet of paper, and will be left to be slaughtered. At that time, a reincarnation-level powerhouse and the reincarnator of his choice would easily fall. Reincarnation has advantages and disadvantages. After a while, it was quiet here. This is obviously a retreat and practice place specially prepared by the Master of Li Soul for Btth2. The black lines on the cliff are combined with the power of thunder. For Btth2, it is a real treasure. The other side, the fifth space, here is a plain, endless as far as the eye can see, but unfortunately there is still no strong figure. All the guardians who lived in the 5 spaces disappeared? What's the matter? Could it be that someone got there first? After exploring 5 spaces in a row, no guardians were found, and Yu-Er's eyes became strange and worried. I don't think so. Xiao Yan stood quietly on the plain, looking at the passage that was about to step into the central red zone on the plain, and smiled. Why? Yu-Er asked urgently. It seemed that Xiao Yan knew something since entering the second dimension, but unfortunately he never told himself. In the 5 spaces from the southernmost to the center, there are 7-star Do Xian perfection-level powerhouses. If the previous soul extinguishing heaven took the lead, then his power must reach the 8-star Do Xian, but I observed his strength before. It is not so tyrannical, so there is only one possibility. Xiao Yan tried to analyze. What? Yu-Er said with a half-understood wink. Xiao Yan had been bewildered, and it was quite difficult for Yu-Er to understand. This way. In order to prevent others from listening, Xiao Yan whispered softly beside Yu-Er. No way. Yu-Er heard and her eyes flashed. Xiao Yan just said that there are mysterious powerhouses helping them, so they can go so smoothly along the way. And the power of that mysterious powerhouse might be the 8-star fighting immortal? 8-star fighting immortal? What is this concept? This is equivalent to a high-level powerhouse. Even in the Li Soul realm, the 8-star fighting immortal is a top existence. For a while, Yu-Er was a little unbelievable. Next, there is the red sign in the center. The degree of danger here is even the most dangerous place among the 3 red signs in the center of the northernmost and southernmost center. It's a pity that we can't get around here, otherwise, even if you give me the courage, I don't want to enter here. The two stood on the plain, looking at a red passage above the plain. Yu-Er couldn't help but muttered. After all, he is better than his own teacher, the dean of the Dignified Soul Academy. When he mentioned this, his eyes flickered and changed, and there must be something to fear. The creatures or powerhouses contained in this place are at least 8-star fighting immortals, but they must go. Xiao Yan said solemnly, and then laughed again. Let's go. The two of them looked at each other, and immediately flew through them. There is always an aura here that makes me feel uneasy. It's looming. It's really strange. I clearly remember that this kind of feeling can only appear in the master. How can such a feeling emerge in a small West temple? Woolen cloth? Is it an illusion? He Sha Longling followed Xiao Yan's too and muttered, but when he looked at the entrance of the passage, a sense of unease emerged. As soon as the voice fell, this guy also entered it together. For a time, the 3 of them walked towards the red zone in the center of the inner hall of the temple one after another. Whether it is reincarnation or rebirth, or destruction, is unknown. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. Continuing from the previous episode 1713. Crash. With a sound, the figures of Xiao Yan and Yu-Er did not enter here at the same time. What a tyrannical coercion. As soon as the two rushed into the red zone in the center, they appeared halfway up the mountainside of one of the 2 cliffs. The cliffs are extremely steep, and even some trails continue to emerge halfway along the way, stretching to the top of the cliffs. What is this? Yu-Er just wanted to take a look at this mysterious cliff, but the vision in front of her was attracted by the brown lines on the cliff trail, so she couldn't help reaching out. Don't! Seeing this, Xiao Yan hurriedly shouted. Although he didn't know the characteristics of this cliff, Xiao Yan vaguely felt that there was something quite terrifying in the cliff. Bang bang bang! Yu-Er shrank his hands off guard, but fortunately there was no serious problem, but this black cliff revealed an invisible threat, even where Yu-Er just touched, under the black lines. it seems that there is still something hidden that is difficult for ordinary people to notice. This is, when you acted like this, Xiaoyan couldn't help but approach the cliff. The surface of the cliff wall is some irregular black stones, but underneath it is covered with some hidden power. The power of thunder? Xiaoyan exerted all his strengths, but he sensed that there was an outrageous power of thunder beneath the rocks on the cliff. This is probably a thunder field. Xiaoyan's face couldn't help but turn ugly. The power of thunder hidden under the rocks on the cliff is probably not inferior to the level of the Thunder Master. Said, but there is a more dangerous existence than the southernmost mourners. Let's go up first. After a short period of surprise, he found that there was no threat around him. Instead, there was an obscure aura on the top of the cliff. Xiaoyan glanced around helplessly and said helplessly, I don't know why, but this place always gave me a rather strange sense of familiarity. But because of the power above the black lines, Xiaoyan's heart was shocked. It was clearly a superior person, at least only an 8-star fighting immortal. Us things. Patong patong. After a few minutes, the two came to the top of the cliff. What's going on here? At this time, Mai glanced away and found that there was only a circular training field and an ordinary stone bridge connecting the two cliffs, and couldn't help but muttered. The top of the cliff is quite wide, but beyond that, there is nothing else. This is Xiaoyan? Why is he here? Before the two came here, Btth2 was surprised to notice Xiaoyan's breath, and her beautiful eyes swept away from the top of the cliff and found Xiaoyan's figure, but it was because with the identities of the two, Btth2 perfectly hid his figure in the void at the top of the cliff. After all, the hidden means of the reincarnation level powerhouse is, because Xiaoyan's supernatural powers are vast, it is impossible to detect. Here. This should be the broken soul bridge that is rumored in the ghost world. Xiaoyan's eyes kept sweeping, and he said after a while, Broken soul bridge? You heard the words and said in surprise. His eyes couldn't help staring at Xiaoyan. It seemed that Xiaoyan knew more than he did. I've only seen it in some ancient books. In the ghost world, there are countless spooky ghosts, and there are strange places that are so dark and evil that people have to pay attention. Broken Soul Bridge. It is said that if you walk through this bridge, you will experience extremely heavy soul burning. If you are a little careless, you will completely turn into nothingness. However, if you successfully resist and cross the Broken Soul Bridge, it will be enough to be reborn. It is only since ancient times. Since the first record, there seems to be no one who can walk here. After a while, Xiaoyan stared at the stone bridge connecting the two cliffs in front of him, and said, The stone bridge is quite simple, like an ordinary bridge, and even on the top of another cliff connected by the stone bridge, a red stone gate stands slightly. Where is the exit through here? What should I do now? Yu'er asked, with doubts in her voice. Now, I can only go over and take a look. Xiaoyan shook his head, but said helplessly. The aura that filled the whole body here even surpassed that of any powerhouse Xiaoyan had ever encountered in the past, but with Xiaoyan's current strength, he could not detect that strangeness. Let's go. The two looked at each other. Xiaoyan was in front and Yu'er was behind, and the two walked towards the Broken Soul Bridge on the cliff for a while. This guy. How did he come here at this critical time? Furthermore, Fang Hao, the master of the West Temple, is the most cautious of the four temples. How could he let him slip in? What the asterisk is going on here? Btth2's thunder pupils, who were hidden in the void, kept blinking, wondering. With Fang Hao's strength and prudence, it is impossible for him to make mistakes at such an important juncture as the master of Soul Li, and it may not be so easy for Xiaoyan and the two to enter here. Boom! The stone bridge was quite simple, but when Xiaoyan stepped on it for the first time, his body couldn't help being shaken, and even the soul power in the spiritual palace in his body was temporarily cut off by half. What a huge coercion! In an instant, Xiaoyan's body was as if he was carrying a huge boulder, and his footsteps left a conspicuous footprint on the stone bridge. Broken Soul Bridge, it really lives up to its reputation. However, it's not enough. Xiaoyan said with difficulty, realizing that the Do Qi and soul power in his body were directly sealed, and he could only move step by instinct pimple. Walking step by step, every step of lifting and lowering requires the last strength, and these strengths come from Xiaoyan's physical strength after being strengthened by the first transformation of the Dragon God. If there is no such increase, I am afraid that the current Xiaoyan could only helplessly retreat. Wang buzzing. When Xiaoyan came to the center of Broken Soul Bridge with difficulty, his pupils couldn't help being attracted by the endless abyss below. That purgatory-like black lava filled the entire cliff. Once Xiaoyan fell, I am afraid that what awaited Xiaoyan would be his demise. Boom! Just as Xiaoyan lost his mind, a mysterious black energy suddenly emerged from the top of the two cliffs on both sides of the ordinary stone bridge, and immediately merged on the stone bridge with the momentum of thunder. At that time, the originally ordinary stone bridge was like a 10,000-year cold cave, exuding an aura of death, and that aura really moved Xiaoyan. Broken Soul Jade on the Broken Soul Bridge. Quiet me down. At this time, the shadow that had been hiding in the void suddenly shouted. At the same time, a gray jade appeared directly above Xiaoyan's head, and immediately absorbed the strange aura on the stone bridge, and the stone bridge returned to calm. You. Hearing this sweet voice, Xiaoyan also realized something and couldn't help but raise his head and look at a certain place in the dark void. Let's go. He didn't appear in the dark void, but with a wave of his hand, a gray thunderbolt sent Xiaoyan and the two figures away from here. I don't know if this is the right thing to do, sigh. After sending Xiaoyan and the two away, Btth2 appeared on the top of the cliff, looking at the passage where the two disappeared, with an innocent expression. The Lord of Li's soul is the same. She has a blood relationship, but Btth2 has some other factors for Xiaoyan. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. Continuing from the previous episode 1714. What was that just now? Yu said in surprise, seeing the successful escape. A friend. Xiaoyan didn't want to explain too much. He waved his hand and smiled. Xiaoyan didn't want to have too much entanglement with Btth2. Let's go. Now there is only the red sign on the northernmost side, and the holy flame in my body is also sending out a rather fiery wave. There should be the retreat of the Lord of the Soul. As soon as the voice fell, there was nothing between the two. Hesitantly, he abruptly headed towards the northernmost space. At the same time, Heishan Longling, Soul Mietian, Leiju, Feng Hao, and Hua Xiao, the leader of Li's Soul Guard, all faced the northernmost space. It seems that that's what matters this time. The inner hall of the West Temple is the northernmost. There is yellow sand everywhere, the yellow sand is buzzing, and the violent power turns into golden sandstorms, raging in the desert, such terrifying energy, as if brewing a tyrannical force that destroys the world. Susu. Is this the place where the Lord of Souls retreats? With such a strong energy fluctuation inside and such a strange sealing force outside, it is really well prepared, but all of this is just adding to the sadness. As soon as the voice fell, a cloud of black energy appeared directly here, without the slightest trace of it. Hesitation poured into it. This guy is Soul Mietian. No one knows why he knows the layout of the West Temple, and no one knows why he stepped past Xiaoyan and the two and entered it in front of them. The far north, the desert hinterland. This is the desert hinterland? Could it be that the Lord of Li's soul wants to use the power of the desert to dilute the power of the holy flame? Just entering the core of this place, a desolate aura, accompanied by bursts of dry and hot aura, rushed toward the face. Soul Mietian, as the Soul Hall Great Soul Venerable, naturally has a lot of restraint on the soul body due to high temperature and flame. No, that's the aura of Lihan, but the area of the desert here is 1,000 feet in size. There are only 4 temples in the desert, and in the temples, there is the aura of the Lord of Lihan. What's going on? After a while, Han Mietian was restless, and then suddenly went to one of the 4 temples above the desert hinterland, even though there were many puzzles in his heart, but now it was too late to waste time. Hoo. Xiaoyan and the others followed, but the two of them had just entered here, and their expressions changed. The danger hidden in the hinterland of the desert made them shocked. The Lord of Li's soul should still be in the north, but why did you create 4 temples, all of which contain his aura? Xiaoyan stood in the middle of the desert, his eyes swept away at the 4 temples below. Currently flashing, has been shaking his head. The 4 temples stand tall, and the silver walls contain some special power, which makes people dread, and even forms a strange connection with each other. Could it be some blindfold? You are asked in confusion. No, wait a minute. I always felt something was wrong. Although we have a detailed map of the West Temple, it's too easy to get in on the way. Even with the protection of the mysterious 8-star fighting immortal powerhouse, after so many powerhouses in the temple have disappeared, why is this place still so quiet? Furthermore, what puzzles me the most is that the Lord of Li Sol is the overlord of the entire Li Sol realm, and he is the mighty person standing in the great world. Such a character must be fully prepared to attack reincarnation. So many mistakes. Xiao Yan did not move at all, but his body suddenly froze in midair. From the beginning to the end, Xiao Yan had forgotten the ability of the Master of Soul Li, but was attracted by acacia broken enteric inflammation. Now that he thought about it carefully, this trip to the temple was full of doubts, so Xiao Yan had to be cautious at this last moment. You mean, looking at Xiao Yan's series of question marks, there was a glimmer of light in his beautiful eyes, and he lost his voice. If you were the Lord of Li Sol and possessed the method of swallowing holy flames to break through the cycle of reincarnation, what would you do? Xiao Yan tried to ask you the simplest question and asked back. I will hide all the news, find a very quiet place to retreat, and even use all my strength to protect myself. You said, so you think about it, our trip to the West Temple seems to be too smooth, but it seems to be arranged by someone. Quote. I always feel that it seems that this is the plan of the Lord of the Soul. After a moment of deep silence, Xiao Yan still spoke, even though he couldn't believe it. Impossible, if this is the case, I'm afraid we are the playthings in his hands. And what is the reason for him to do this? Yu shook his head. I have several holy flames on my body. He naturally covets the exercises in my body, and you should also have something that attracts the Master of the Soul. I said, right? Xiao Yan asked. You're right in your analysis, but now that we're all here, at the critical moment, whether it's life or death, we can only see God's will. Yu smiled helplessly. She was already determined to die, so she didn't have much fear. Fate still has to be in our own hands, and because of being a ghost, Lord Li's strength dropped dramatically when he devoured the holy flame. That's our only chance. So since everyone has come, we can't leave empty-handed. Xiao Yan said with a smile. If that's the case, then let's go. Yu also made up his mind secretly, and immediately went to one of the temples. I hope my guess is wrong. Xiao Yan reluctantly glanced at the 4 shrines standing on the golden yellow sand above the desert hinterland, shook his head and said, here gives Xiao Yan a strange aura, even strong anywhere before. After a while, the two went directly to the far north, where there was the strongest aura of holy flame and the aura of the Lord of Souls. It's just that Xiao Yan and Yu, including Soul Mietian, didn't find out. Ever since they entered here, the locations of the 4 temples in the hinterland of the desert have found a strange change, and they have vaguely emerged from the walls of the 4 temples. When it came out, it turned out to be like an ancient formation, which completely connected the 4 temples, and in the center of the 4 temples in the desert hinterland, a huge illusory figure looming, eternal. Hoo! After waiting for so long, I finally got hooked. In an instant, a man in a green robe in the northernmost temple in the desert hinterland opened his tightly closed pupils, and even his voice was filled with relief. Meaning, boom! Following this guy's actions, an aura of awe emanated from the entire empty temple, like a master. Godly mighty. At the same time, in this empty temple, countless swallowing flame crystals paved the way, and even in the center, a beautiful sedan chair carved by countless ancient texts emerged. And standing on the top of the exquisite sedan chair, a group of pink flames as small as a heart, like an elf, beating happily. Every time it beats, there will be extremely violent pink flame ripples. That kind of energy will destroy the world, but after a while, it will be completely absorbed by countless swallowing flame crystals. Decorated for the most mysterious area. Lord of Souls. Acacia bronchitis. This is obviously the final destination of the trip to the ghost world. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis.